Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for holding the hearing today. And to all the witnesses, thank you very much for being here and for your excellent testimony. 2 years ago, the Republicans on this committee gave billions of dollars in tax cuts to big pharmaceutical companies without paying for it. They told us it would lead to better and cheaper drugs, that it would drive investment, and it would create jobs. Well, it's been 2 years, and I'd like to start by asking whether those predictions came true, because to me, the evidence looks pretty thin. Dr. Setzer, you discussed this in your testimony, and I'd like to ask you to expand on it. 2 years ago, Big Pharma got tens of billions of dollars in tax cuts. In the 2 years since, how have pharmaceutical companies used that money?
Well, it's very clear that the bulk of the tax cuts has been given back to the pharmaceutical companies' large shareholders through a very large increase in share buybacks without any reduction in dividends. So the total announced buybacks from pharmaceutical companies subsequent to the passage of the Tax Cut and Jobs Act has been in the roughly around $80 billion. Research and development has grown a bit, but in line with the general increase in research and development of all successful companies. The bulk of the benefits have gone to shareholders.
Has the price of pharmaceuticals fallen meaningfully since those tax cuts?
If you look at the producer price index for pharmaceuticals and take as your starting point the passage of the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, the price of pharmaceuticals has gone up. As the chairman noted,
It's gone up.
It's gone up. The pace of increase may have slowed in the past 12 months, but over the course of the past 24 months, the price index is clearly up.
Has job creation in the pharmaceutical industry shot upwards since those tax cuts?
There is no evidence of any significant acceleration in job growth. I mean, the overall economy has continued to perform well, and that has led to some increase in jobs. But remember that the increase in payouts to shareholders is something like 100%, and there's been very modest increases in jobs.
And then just so I'm clear, the reinvestment of their profits relative to other industries in research and development, that hasn't led to a tremendous growth in that area?
No, I think there's one study that suggests research and development spending has gone up by like 7%, whereas I mentioned buybacks were up by like 100%. A study by the Federal Reserve, which I think is a relatively serious economics entity, that looked at not just the pharmaceutical industry, but a broad set of America's leading companies, found that research and development grew after the Tax Cut and Jobs Act at basically the same pace that it was growing before the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, whereas buybacks and dividends shot up dramatically.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Kesselum, earlier this year, the House Democrats passed legislation that would empower the federal government to negotiate drug prices on behalf of all Americans, including Medicare beneficiaries. Critics say that this will stifle innovation. How would you respond to that?
I don't actually think there is good evidence that it will stifle innovation. In fact, the cost savings that negotiation will allow in bringing drug prices closer to the value that they actually provide, that doesn't necessarily have to be pulled out of research and development costs. In fact, it could be pulled out of marketing expenses or administration costs or other things that drug companies spend money on. Drug companies spend less than 20% of their revenues on research and development, and in fact, actually may increase innovation by requiring drug companies to look harder for the next great cures of tomorrow to try to sustain their revenues.
So they're not going to stop selling their products here because we require the negotiations.
Right. I mean, that's how they make. The drug companies are in this to sort of make drugs and make money from those drugs. So I mean, I think that they'll continue to do that.
Thank you very much. I yield back.